Welcome to episode number 6 of Blended Blessed and Always a Mess. I'm Aric.
And I'm Angie.
We're married with a crap ton of kids.
6 kids total. He has 3 and I have 3.
Our show's about our blended, blessed, and always a mess life.
And our hope is if you find yourself in a same situation we're in, that by sharing our story, all the fun, the mess, the challenges, it'll give you a little inspiration, some laughs, and a sense of community, knowing that you're not alone.
You're not alone. Not at all. And hopefully you'll find out that we don't always get it right either. So we
mess up a
piecing
lot.
it together as we go, as you'll see in this episode titled, You're the Devil.
Yeah, more to come. You'll find out. Okay, yeah, it's Aric.
Me.
He is the devil.
The devil. Just thought I'd do a good Christian podcast.
There you
this
go,
episode,
yeah.
I'm the devil.
Yeah. So, last time we talked about cardinals and COVID, and now we're in the midst of this pandemic.
It's pandemic season in the house.
Yes.
Luckily, we had 2 houses at the time.
We did.
Everybody could have their own space if things started to go awry. But all in all, as we said in the last episode, it was good for our family, but it did help us to address some challenges.
Yeah, so it was rough at first, like it was for most of, our listeners. Everybody kind of struggled at first, like, what is this thing? And what is this actually going to be like?
Because there was fear, right?
Oh, for sure. And, for me, I already worked remote and had some challenges, but going to all remote and then all of these kids at home doing virtual learning.
Oh, my God.
Amazing.
The virtual learning.
And then my oldest, she was a senior at the time, so she was in her last couple months of her senior year. So dealing with what the heck is this? And just graduation and missing all the normal senior festivities. So that was definitely an adjustment. Having all the kids at home was an adjustment.
I was trying to learn how to work from home.
Yeah.
Which was
you were not used to that at all.
Not something I had ever done.
So another challenge that we had, although we were blessed to be able to go back and forth to, each other's houses, that did still mean, though, when we were together, some kids didn't have their own space, just depending on which house we were at.
That's
so
right.
They wanted to hang out together, but then there was a lot of like, this is my room, get out of my room, that's my stuff, and just struggling with space.
If we were at your house, then my kids felt like they didn't have a space. If we were at my house, your kids felt like they didn't have a space. So yes, that was a struggle. So then we tried to spend a lot of time outside when it was nice.
But it is kind of funny.
Challenges.
Yeah, the devil challenges. It was kind of funny though too. Although that felt really painful, some of the kids were like, "Oh yeah, that was so much fun when we all were together at your house." I'm like, "What?"
Dane's like, "I loved that time."
I'm like, "That I don't remember you guys loving it, but okay."
They seem to.
I'll take those memories, I guess.
I said to you this week though, I mean, I can't believe I'm saying it, but I do look back and I miss it. Because we actually did have control of our life at that point.
It's out of control right now.
Like we have so many sports, so much work. It's hard just to see each other. Like we have to schedule to do this. And, then there was time and we controlled what our kids did. And it was, the more I look back on it, I'm like, that may not be like the worst for us.
No, there was
for our family. There was a lot of good things that happened.
There were some blessings for sure. I mean, one positive outcome over the COVID pandemic, stuck at home, is I've never been into fitness really. I mean, I watched what I ate and was generally a healthy person, but never worked out. Why are you laughing?
Because when we met, I worked out. And you ate so healthy and not very much. And I don't eat as healthy, obviously. And I do eat a lot. And you're like, I do that because I hate to work out.
Because I don't like to work out. I've never stuck to a workout program. So Aric actually introduced me to Jen's Get Fit. So that was part of my saving grace, is that was at home workouts for like 26 minutes. And I started getting into working out. And I absolutely love it. I've been doing it,
almost 2 years.
2 years now. Mm-hmm. So the fitness thing is also what has connected our family too, but we can dive into that in later podcast. But So that's another positive. I feel like there's probably other people who are in the same situation that they started to do at-home workouts. If you could find weights. Remember when you couldn't find weights?
Oh, my gosh. You were trying to order things, and you're like, I can get some 12-pounders and some 20-pounders. Oh, they've got 4-pounders. I was like, what am I going to do with a 4-pound weight?
I've mismatched weights because of that. Like, I found a 12-pound, and then I found another one that didn't match, but I still use it. But then it also led us to being outside, right? And that, although was awesome, that's where some of our challenges started. So I'll give you a little bit of background on my kiddos. Like, I grew up in a non-sports family. So we didn't do sports except for my baby sister. She ended up doing track and ended up going to state in the 400 event. But so we really didn't do a lot of sports, wasn't our background. Hallie, my oldest, she was into horses, so she didn't do sports. But then here, the twins, they started getting interested in sports. But
Summer was very interesting. By the time I met her, she was super engaged in sports.
But my kiddos all wanted to do their own thing. They didn't want anyone else to do their thing. So Hallie was into horses. Really didn't want the twins to get into horses. Summer had soccer. Didn't really want anybody else to get in soccer. And Chace was kind of trying to figure out what his thing was. So
I didn't know that the other kids didn't want.
No,
I didn't realize that until
they're independent. They want to do their own thing and their own special thing that they're good at. So when Chace was younger, he did baseball. He did soccer too, and he was real little. But he kind of struggled with it because he's one of those kids that's a perfectionist. And so if he messes up or does something, misses the ball or whatever, he's majorly hard on himself and gets super frustrated. So he did sports for a little bit, and then we ended up taking a break from it because it was really hard for him. So he ended up getting into skateboarding, and because it was great, independent, like not a team sport. No one else was doing skateboarding. So that was kind of the vibe, something unique to each one of them. So then, then we meet Aric's family, complete opposite.
I mean, we like our sports.
They live and breathe sports.
We live and breathe Cardinals baseball. And that summer before we met, I took the kids, we went like 10 times to Cardinals games. And Lexi never played. Like when she was little, she actually played softball and she was good at it. And then she quit. She got into showing animals and she really loved showing cattle and pigs and things like that. So that's what she cheered. She actually made the Rockbridge varsity cheerleading team as a freshman, but then she gave that up. So, but she's a diehard Cardinals fan. And then I've worked with Mizzou athletics for a long time. So they've all obviously been very engaged with Mizzou basketball and Mizzou volleyball. But then my middle son, Carter, baseball for a long time, basketball. Now he runs track. Dane has been a diehard baseball fan for a long time. So he plays baseball. So in our house, when the weather's nice, we're outside and we're throwing the ball around. Like we get outside and that's what we do. And it's a way that I can spend time with the boys. And it's just really good. Lexi would even go out and she'd watch and talk to us and things like that. So that was our thing. That's what we like to do, was play sports. So now when we're COVID lockdown, and you're confined to your yard, that's what we were going to do.
The ball gloves.
We're picking up the gloves.
The other thing that I will say about Aric, he's like a true mentor and coach at heart, which also means he is great at giving feedback, whether the kids want to hear it or not in sports. So keep all that in mind, because now it's COVID and we're going to go outside and we're going to throw the ball around. When I say we, it's not me. I'll
get some sun.
I'll sit outside.
Yeah. And work on your computer.
So the other thing I would say is I think kids across the board want to belong. Like that matters to them. They want to be part of something. So we have that dynamic. It's springtime. Like I said, we're outside. I already gave you background on Chace. He doesn't want to mess up, wants to belong, has taken a break from sports. And now we have this perfect storm of our families coming together. Actually, it's not just like one night of storms. It's kind of like a hurricane season.
And there was multiple hurricanes. So I would just say this, like once I started working with Chace, it was really obvious that he was very athletic, but from an experience standpoint, he had not had the one-on-one coaching necessary just for basics, right? And so we were starting from basics because he needed that. And then I have seen him grow so quickly and fast over the last 2 years. But then the first several months of that was a struggle. That whole Groundhog's Day thing where we would go outside.
So painful.
And he would get so mad.
Because, I mean, as a mom, my heart just like ached for him because I knew he wanted to go out there and show Aric that he could do it, right?
Not just me, but Carter and Dane.
Yeah, he had an audience. And so, that was, in his mind, people judging him, right? It's all the
negative
story,
self-talk.
The story you're telling yourself. And that was his struggle. I mean, and like for us, we struggle with knowing what to do and how to handle it. We try to talk to him and he would always say, I
don't care. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. And I'd
But
be like, you do care.
Did.
That's why you're so mad.
And so it was just like, how do you connect with him? I mean, just the negativity and just him not giving himself grace that you don't have to get it right. No one's expecting you to show up and be perfect. You've been out of the loop for a little bit because you had taken a break. So,
and not only that, here's a kid with a twin sister who is just going to do whatever, right? And so she would go out there.
Different.
And her mindset is like, oh, didn't do that right. Well, let me see. How can I learn how to do that right? And then she just is, but that's where they're different. He's a perfectionist. She also wants to be perfect, but she gives herself grace when she makes mistakes.
Right.
Where Chace has had a hard time giving himself grace when he makes a mistake. And that's like where the twins differ a little bit.
Yeah, so I would say we were kind of at our wits' end a little bit of like, and me, I was doubting like, oh my gosh, how is this going to work? This is just awful for him to struggle and wanting to be part of something. And so I do think that God puts people in your path for a reason. And we were out to dinner one night.
I just want to say to you that in our podcasting every week where you're like, I just thought I didn't know how this was going to work. That's the first time I've ever known that for you. I just thought,
whatever.
I'm serious. You've never said that out loud until we got you up behind a microphone. And then the truth comes out. And the truth shall set you free.
Well, I was not sure how this was going to work. That's why I was so stressed about it all the time. It was just like, oh my gosh, it's hard.
I wasn't
it's difficult.
Stressed because I was determined in what I was doing. Now, part of that is because God puts people in your life, as you were saying.
True. That's true because I don't like the confrontation. I just want things to be simple, and they were not simple. This is like probably one of the most difficult things that I've done. What?
It's just funny because I just think life's not simple.
I know.
And so
that's why if I can control some simplicity of it, like that's what I like to control is simple.
Yeah.
Because it's not simple.
Here's what I would say, and I do believe this, is that I think if I don't show up and my kids and all the things that we've done, Chace is probably still skateboarding. He probably doesn't have all the friends that he has. He doesn't advance into the weightlifting that he does now, all the other sports that he does, all the self-confidence that we've watched him get over the last 2 years, because nobody shows up for him and pushes him out of his comfort zone. And so I believe that this time, while it was super painful for all of us, and I know you were super uncomfortable and it made you super nervous, and there was a lot of arguments that happened from it, it's, that's how God works, right? So, I'm going to tweak things. Every time we talk about pushing somebody out of their comfort zone, that's usually when something good is about to happen. And so I think that's how it worked out with Chace. And in that process, we talked a couple of weeks ago, Christmas. That's really when we first had like our first blow up with Chace. And then it progressed from there for a little while. The progressions were more frequent. And it felt like at that point he knew that you and I were getting closer. And he wasn't sure he liked me. He knew he liked me, but he also had confusion about liking me because, that's hard when you have a dad and things like that. And so we had to start going through these things. And the sports kind of brought that into effect at that point. So I had started having conversations with one of my very, very good friends who grew up in a divorced home. And he had some similarities to Chace in that he wanted his dad, he wanted to live with his dad, not so much his mom. And that didn't happen for you guys, but his mom was a lot like you in a lot of ways and took care of a lot of things. And he was wanting his dad to be the one that would show up. Well, his mom met a guy that he really liked. And so then he had all this internal conflict about, do I Do I like my mom's new husband, or do I stay true to my dad? And so I just started having conversations with him about what that was like. And he started explaining to me the things he would do to his new stepfather. And it was a lot of the things I was dealing with Chace. And I said, well, what happened? And he said, Bill never broke. He was always the same guy. I could be a total jerk at 12, 13 years old, and he never changed. He loved me the same way. He was as hard on me the same way. He did all the things the same way, and he never, ever changed. So those were conversations that I was having with him. And then God works in mysterious ways, and we go to dinner one night.
Yeah, so we go to dinner, and we decide to stop at our favorite restaurant, D Rose, for a drink. And I do like chocolate martinis.
You
Just
do.
one. Just
That's
one
your
and
favorite.
done.
That's your
One and
favorite.
done.
Yeah, more than that. One, it's a lot of sugar and could lead to a headache.
So yeah, we ended up running into Aric's close friend he was just talking about. We ran into his parents, his mom and his stepdad. And we ended up getting into a long conversation with them. And
That ended up a bar closing conversation.
Yes,
Like a three, more than one chocolate.
More than one chocolate martini. So I think for me, I mean, Aric had been having these conversations, and he wasn't necessarily struggling with the situation. I was struggling with the situation because I wasn't used to Aric's parenting style and being the pusher, as he was talking about earlier. And so we sat down at the table and started talking to them and started kind of sharing some of our challenges. And if you guys take anything away from this podcast, this particular episode, the one thing is their piece of advice to us. For me, it was game changing. And it was super simple. And it was just, don't change a thing. Keep showing up. Just keep being who you are. Treat your kids the same. And just keep showing up. Stay the course. And, they shared more than just that. But that was their main piece of advice. And it just gave me, like, the reassurance, because I also know how close they all are now. Like, so you see the light at the end of the tunnel of, like, okay, that it is possible to work through the challenges and work through that pushback over time. It's just going to take time.
And that's what I think is so important to note, is that you as the parents and step parents can't change, because they're already in a limbo going back and forth. So they are looking for that consistency. And so to know that, okay, it's always going to be this way, and I can push hard, and they don't change. They keep showing up for me in love. We show our commitment to them every time. We love them in the hard times. Not just the good times, but then they keep showing up for me the same in the discipline too. Like, I wasn't going to let you change my discipline. And I'm not talking about you. Like, I wasn't going to let the kids change my discipline just because you threw a temper tantrum. I mean, that'd be the worst thing I could have done. So those were things that we learned from that dinner, and it was game changing. The point where we invited them to our wedding, because we really felt like they helped us so much to help our family. And so, yeah, but it didn't change. It didn't fix everything overnight.
No.
It just gave us the hope that there was light, like you said, a light at the end of the tunnel and a path.
Well, you could see their journey and how it ended, right? And where they were able to get to. So it just gave us that inspiration and hope that, okay, we can get through this. So we had like a renewed energy, but yeah, it didn't mean that overnight it fixed it, because then we had the wiffle ball game.
And this is a progression we were getting to where Chace
was 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah, because he was throwing and catching well, and he was starting to feel grounded as well. Started making progress. But you still also have to hit when you're playing ball. And he was getting ready to be, that summer, later in the year in Missouri, they started to open up and kids could play sports a little bit. And so where he lived, in Cole County, he was able to be on a baseball team that June and July.
Yeah, so he showed interest, and a lot of that's because Aric was playing ball with his kids. So it's like, oh gosh, could be good, could be bad.
That's right. And some days it was bad, but you've got to hit to play baseball. And so I thought, let's go out back and use a wiffle ball, right? Because kids are going to be less afraid of a wiffle ball than they are a real ball.
But we played wiffle ball a lot. That was a common game.
It was. Hitting was a struggle,
Yes.
right? So I wanted to use this as an opportunity so that he would be comfortable. And one of the things that we had tried to do over time was do some one-on-one coaching, me and him alone. So he wasn't in front of all the kids. But for whatever reason this day,
We were having a game.
it didn't go well. We had a game.
Yeah.
Nothing went well.
He was not hitting, and he was super upset. Super upset. And all Aric kept saying was, just give me 5 minutes of your time. Just listen to me for 5 minutes. I can help you. I just want to tweak a few things. And he was upset.
Upset.
I was upset. He was upset.
All of a sudden, he looks at me. He's like, "You're the devil." I'm like, what the heck is happening?
And then Summer was like, I'll hit. So he's like, okay, Summer, give me 5 minutes of your time. And so Aric gave her a few tips, and then she was cranking it out. And that
didn't make it
help. That did not help. But I will say that did show him that you knew what you were talking about.
Yes.
And so after lots of convincing of like, Chace, he knows what he's talking about. He's just here to help you. I know you think he's the devil, but he truly wants to help. So lots of convincing. Hey, it's okay to mess up. Just give him 5 minutes. Just give him a chance. And so he finally did. Finally listened to him. Gave him the 5 minutes, and he was cranking it out there.
Yeah.
And that was also one of the little turning points of him just slowly building trust with Aric. But I do feel like the root of it all is just like, I didn't realize this going into blending families, but it is hard on some kids. Some kids do totally fine with it, but it is hard on some kids to start developing feelings and caring about a, step parent and knowing that is okay. Because I will say
I feel like you're cheating on your real parent.
You do. Well, some kids. Now, I will say that my kids didn't have any issues really adopting or caring about my ex-husband, their dad's significant other. That was all great. But I think Chace, just being the only son, and he just has such a huge heart, that it was just, for whatever reason, harder on him.
So, even then we started doing more like one-on-one stuff with me and him. We went to your ex-husband and asked him to help with that.
Yeah, one of the things, and I will give him a ton of kudos. We do have a good parenting communication, always try to be on the same page with the kids. And so I had reached out to him like, hey, he's wanting to play baseball, but he is not wanting to take a lot of feedback. Is that something that you can help us out with? And so he had talked to Chace and just said, hey, Aric's willing to spend time with you, and you want to get better at baseball. You need to listen to him and work with him. And that also was a huge, huge help.
So that definitely did help get to where I was able to one-on-one work with him. And when he would go to shut down, I could say, your dad's already said that you got to do this with me. Like, you're not just quitting because it's not going well today. Like,
It's
you were
such a
great
good
yesterday.
Of like really co-parenting, bringing, even the parenting side together from a blended family perspective. That is, it's hard to have it, I will say, but it also makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and it
for the kids.
One of those things where he'd have a great day playing one day, the next day he'd be missing a couple balls, and I'm going to quit. This is stupid. I'm not doing this. You don't even know what you're talking about. And be like, that if we call your dad, he's going to tell you that you have to. And he'd be like, huff and puff, and then he'd get back to it. And it helped us to progress. But, that's not just all. One of the things we have learned over time with Chace especially is it's not just the physical activities like sports, but he's a deep thinker like you are, like
his
Hallie.
mama.
Deep thinker and want to show up for you strong. But that also means that there's feelings, right? And so just like I had to initially break down walls with Angie and continue to do that, same thing happened with Chace. And I would even say to some degree, it's still happening now with Hallie in other areas because they're so similar. And so you have to get into the mental side of things with Chace to build a deeper relationship so that he doesn't think you're going to bail on him. Which led us to another incident. Not a devil. I mean, I wasn't full devil, although this day was pretty bad too. I mean, we were in hurricane after hurricane. Remember here, we're going one hurricane to another. And I feel like it was a Saturday, but hell, it was COVID. It could have been a Tuesday.
I know we were at your house.
We
were at your house, and the kids were crazy. I mean, I was in. I feel like we were getting ready to go somewhere, but I was in your bedroom. I think getting ready, and you came in there and made some kind of comment about, oh, these kids are all being jerks. And Chace overheard it and came in. And he was like, I knew it. I knew you didn't like us, and just like.
No, I was like, we were all like, that is not what we're saying. You're all misbehaving. And so we ended up like making him have a conversation with us.
And I would say too, although super uncomfortable, the open conversations with the kids and just like calling them out in some aspects is game changing. And I'm not the best at that. I'm not the best at like just being very frank about things.
You have a really good heart, and if you think it through, get through
I analyze it, but I analyze it and try to
pusher.
Be strategic. And Aric's just like, nope, this is what's going down.
Well, in that moment, that day, it had to go down. There was no time to strategize it, no time to think it. We're doing this, and so it was just you, me, Chace. We shut the door, and because he was like, "This isn't going to work. You're going to do this, da-da-da-da."
He said he was going to leave.
I'm leaving. Like, where are you going to go?
It was just, one of those days where I think he was struggling with all the emotions of it all. I didn't give it enough just credit to how challenging it is or all the feelings kids would have when you're trying to blend a family.
So I basically said, here's the deal. I'm an open book, and I'm always going to be an open book. And so let me share with you some of the pain that I've gone through. I know that it hurts that your mom and dad got divorced. I didn't go through that, but the day after my 27th birthday, my dad died. He was my very best friend. And it's super painful for me. I was very lucky that I had coaches all through growing up. Mr. Boehner, Mr. Genoa, they were great men that were there for me even after my dad died. And I'd been out of high school at that point for 10 years, and they're still there for me today. And I'm just another person in your life that loves you and cares about you. And I'm not going anywhere. And I just want to help you. And I'm not trying to replace your dad. And, just felt like that conversation went on for 30, 45 minutes over and over. But I've shared multiple things with them about my life, any struggles that I've had, just so they know. I kept saying to them over and over again, like, I'm not perfect, so I don't expect you to be perfect either. And we did make some headway.
Yeah, I feel like that was another one of just building on the acceptance of what this relationship was turning into, and just the pivot point for Aric and Chace to start really building that bond. I mean, he probably still calls you the devil now, but it's more out of
joke about it.
Yeah, honoring us. I mean, we still talk about that time. Remember when he called you the devil?
Yeah.
Because everyone remembers it. But there's we could go into a ton of stories. The gym was another scenario where Chace wanted to show up and know how to lift the weights and didn't want to work out with Aric. And now you guys
10 and 11, how would you know that?
Now you guys sit in the sauna together and you work out together and you compare your muscles together. And it's the gym, the fitness aspect, I feel like has brought us all closer together too.
And we went from a kid that did no sports and just did skateboarding because he could do it as a loner to football, baseball, track, wrestling. Chace does all those things. And it's been a push. And I know there's been times that's been super uncomfortable for you.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I know that it has. But then I also just have always believed that kids want to be around a male presence especially boys and girls, but they want to be around a male presence that actively is engaging with them on a regular basis. And so if they're in your home, let's say you're the mom in this blended family, then you want a bonus dad who's actively engaged in your kid's life. That's how I have felt about it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I'm engaged.
You're very engaged. Yes. And I see all the benefits of that. I see it in my kids. But, if you would have told me back when we were in the storm of all of this, that you and Chace would have the relationship that you have now, I would have said, no way in hell.
I only believe that.
I would not have. I would have been like, no way. You guys would not be as close as you are now. It's just hard to see it, in all the challenges.
But it's why I kept having those conversations with one of my best friends, and then his stepdad reassuring me the same thing, that it was hard, and it wasn't 2 weeks of hard. It was several years of hard.
Yes.
And now, he's named his son after his stepdad. Things like that. I mean, it's doable, but you do have to put in the hard work, and you have to break down the walls, and you have to get to where there's a trust factor. And they believe in you, and they know that you really care.
You have to build the trust, and you have to keep it. That's the other thing. I mean, God, how many hours do you think we've spent talking and analyzing the conversations with the kids, or how we're going to do this particular scenario? I mean,
that's all we do when we're not working.
There's so many kids. It's hard. And I feel like, I don't know, it's just, that I do think that's one aspect when I miss COVID a little bit, is it was simpler. I feel like because kids weren't out doing anything.
It was. I liked it.
Let's go back to the 50s and 60s.
Just go back, taking away your phones. Yeah.
Yes.
We limited it to like a couple hours a day, and
I know.
Yeah. So we got through it. It's continued to be something that him and I. Even now, I think in the last few months, we were at the gym one day, and I have learned to go to Chace if I see something and be like, hey, would you like could I give you some feedback? And, if he says no, then I don't give it to him. But most of the time now, probably 90% of the time, he knows how much I care about him. He's like, yeah, what do you see? And then he takes that. And then like him and I will even joke about it, walk into the car in front of you, because we know how uncomfortable we've made you in the past.
Yes.
So it's, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see now, for sure, what the results are.
He's my buddy, and we know that we love each other very much. And Chace and I love each other very much. And it was a lot of pain. It was a lot of work. And, but I think we're both super, super grateful that we put that work in.
So yeah, stay the course.
Trust me.
And yeah, I guess trust. So our next episode, you're going to actually hear from Chace.
Yeah, I think we're going to sit him down and visit a little bit.
He is excited to be part of the podcast. Him and I have been chatting about his topic and what he wants to share. And so we're excited to be able to give you the firsthand experience right from Chace.
Tell him he can't be a perfectionist. All right.
I know.
It can't be perfect.
It'll be interesting.
I'll edit.
It'll be interesting to see what he has to say.
Yeah. So again, the big takeaway from today is our conversation with the older couple at the restaurant is, stick with it. It's going to take time. Don't change what you're doing. I mean, right? Those are the things we want you to remember.
Be consistent.
Consistency.
And patience, because it takes a long time.
Yeah.
Takes a long time.
Thanks so much for joining us, listening today to Blended Blessed, and always a mess.
And just keep sending your feedback. We love hearing from you guys.
You can always share it. Let your friends and family know, especially anybody in a blended family. We can't wait for you to meet Chace next week.